Riddell-Carpenter.
Thank you, Sir John. I beg to move that the House has considered the coordination of nationally significant infrastructure projects for energy on the Suffolk coast. Suffolk Coastal is central to the UK's energy ambitions. It's often said that up to 30% of Britain's future energy is expected to be generated in or transmitted through my constituency of Suffolk Coastal. Suffolk Coastal is home to nationally and internationally important landscapes, including national landscapes, SSIs, the Suffolk Heritage Coast, and wetlands that form part of the East Atlantic Flyway migratory bird route. These are not simply scenic features, they underpin local economies, nature-based tourism, and they are vital to national commitments to biodiversity and environmental protection. And as the Minister will be aware, these NSIPs that I'm referring to today are being delivered within a small 10-mile radius, in the heart of these national landscapes and set in RSPB nature reserves and important national sites. Stretching from Line Link in Walberswick, just south of Southwold, down to Sea Link in Aldborough, and then next door to Sizewell C, which is Europe's largest energy project, and linking into the proposed converter stations in Friston and Saxmundham. Some of these projects have consent, whilst others are going through the process as we speak. But what is remarkable, and the point of this debate, is to highlight the lack of coordination between these plans. No attempt has been made to plan for the cumulative impact that these projects will have, nor has any attempt been made to consider how better to coordinate these plans. In fact, in March 2024, National Grid published details to say that it has no intention to coordinate Line Link, led by National Grid Ventures, with a more advanced Sea Link project, led by National Grid Electricity Transmission. Happy to.
So, John, can I commend the Honourable Lady for bringing this forward? And she's right to highlight the issue of coastal communities. There are very many difficulties. My constituency is one of those with the issue of coastal erosion, for example, that they've worked on, but also the need for potential for clean, renewable energy. Does the Honourable Lady agree that perhaps maybe it's now an option for the Minister and for Government to put their minds and money into harnessing that energy for the benefit of all communities throughout the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland?
I thank the member for his contribution. I look forward to the Minister's remarks later. As I was saying, Sir John, the projects that I referenced, the multiple NSIPs within Suffolk Coastal, are happening within just a 10-mile radius. They're being planned right now in an area of the country that is mostly served by B roads and country lanes. It seems remarkable to me that developers are being allowed to bring forward these proposals on some of England's most important nature sites when an alternative offshore could have been easily considered. But the focus of today is to clearly set out how Suffolk Coastal is being let down and why I'm asking the Government, and indeed have been asking the Government, to work with me to require that these developers relook at their plans and improve proposals to minimise disruption to both people and the environment. Now, as the Minister will know, the previous government totally vacated the space of leadership in our country's energy and biodiversity planning. That void was filled by energy developers who decided to take the lead and were left to bring forward proposals in totally unsuitable landscapes, all because it was cheaper than taking projects forward to brownfield sites. Now, what we've been left with is a series of uncoordinated whack-a-mole projects on the Suffolk coast. We have an opportunity under this new government to provide greater planning and leadership on these critical infrastructure challenges. Happy to.
Thank my honourable friend for giving way. And having worked in the energy industry, I am and continue to be a strong proponent of local area energy plans, because what they would do is they would empower communities to make decisions about their own energy needs and how much energy they want to export. At the moment, the process feels very reactive, and it's based on private and landowner interests, as opposed to empowering communities across the local authority area to make decisions. Would you agree with me that it would be helpful to have energy planning on a statutory footing across every local authority in the country?
I thank the honourable member for his intervention, and I know it's something that he's been passionate about in this place since his arrival here last year, and I look forward to the Minister's response to that point. But in summary, yes, I do agree. And actually, I'll be coming on to some of those themes later as well with the own points that I'll be making. As I was saying, we have an opportunity under this new government to provide greater planning and leadership in these critical infrastructure challenges. An opportunity to set up an overarching body to ensure that the many competing schemes, whether already consented within the DCO process or in the pipeline, would ensure that schemes are properly coordinated. This body could be departmental or independent from government, but it would operate under the direction of the Secretary of State. Whilst BEIS, as it was then, consulted on the concept of the future systems operator for electricity, it does not go far enough nor quickly enough. There needs to be oversight of the cumulative impact of all NSIP schemes in one single area. And the failings of not having this are perhaps best highlighted many areas of my constituency, but particularly in Bowden Farms. Bowden Farms have had a CPO of land to accommodate Sizewell C's development phase, and work has begun on a new relief road on the farm's former land. But the farmer has also been told by National Grid Ventures that they too will need to access his land in order to lay cables for line link, though they can't tell him where, when, or if it will be CPO'd. But they can tell him that in a year or maybe two, they'll be digging up the very same land that's been worked on right now by Sizewell C, including, most likely, parts of this new relief road that's being built as we speak. And I'm very concerned, Chair, by reports that the only plans Line Link have ever received about the link road are the ones the landowner provided himself. Surely this can't be right. Now, I know it isn't right, but I sadly know it's not a one-off. This is a story repeated across my constituency in every parish where lines are being laid or work is being planned. This is in no one's self-interest, not the community's, not nature's, and not even in the developer's interest. That's why I put forward my own amendment to the Infrastructure and Planning Bill to make it a legal requirement for energy developers to coordinate their work when they bring forward their proposals. Farmers in Woodbridge to Leiston and parishes from Friston to Walberswick, Yoxford to Peasenhall all say the same thing. Why are these projects popping up with no coordination, and why is there no legal requirement for them to work together? It is our communities and our environments that have to endure the cumulative impact of this all. Now, secondly, I want to point out the issue of how developers are failing to put in proper mitigations in place or to listen to the concerns of local residents is having a real impact. Farmers have told me of issues when engaging with energy developers that they have raised their objections to cables being buried to a depth of less than 1.8 metres on their farmland. I'd like to point out and put on record, as I have done before, that any less than 1.8 metres will result in the land not being able to be used for arable farming, as it would be in breach of electrical safety guidance. However, energy developers have been unwilling to engage with this, risking the land being permanently taken out of arable food production. Any cables being laid on active agricultural land should come with guarantees that arable farmland will be safeguarded for future farming use. Now, Sir John, this is why I tabled my second amendment to the Planning and Infrastructure Bill to make it a legal requirement for energy developers to lay cables to a minimum depth of 1.8 metres. And now, the issue of depth of cables isn't just an issue for farmers, but it's an issue for offshoring shipping too. Now, as Suffolk Coastal MP, you'll appreciate that I have shipping lanes throughout off the coast of my constituency. And the Harwich and Haven Authority have told me that they are concerned that energy developers must do more to engage with them to ensure that cables are buried at a sufficient depth to ensure projects do not compromise navigational safety. The sunk area around the haven is a vital and highly complex shipping zone, and any offshore developments must be planned with strict adherence to safety requirements. Sir John, the UK has let developers lead the conversation and indeed the strategy, and what we've ended up with are a mismatch of proposals in the wrong place with no coordination and no desire to think of better alternatives. But other countries are stealing a march. Holistic network design criteria, NHDs, are adopted and adhered to in North Sea countries, including Belgium, Netherlands and Germany. As a result, brownfield sites are chosen at the outset for their energy infrastructure hubs, and in doing so, they manage to avoid the adverse impact on communities and ecologies. Places such as Zeeburg and Rotterdam industrial zones are chosen for building substations and with space to build future projects, including hydrogen storage. These projects are coordinated in order to minimise needless damage, maximise efficiencies and move at pace. Now, for the same reasons, energy developers in the UK should be required to pursue, as a first option, brownfield sites, brownfield hubs, where multiple projects can coexist without any adverse impact on nature. So, John, we need to make it the legal duty for developers working in the same area to exchange information, to seek opportunities for shared infrastructure, to reduce cumulative impact and to align their timelines. Introducing a framework of coordination, co-design, community benefit and compensation would mean that communities, towns and parish councils and the government can see the whole picture, not just the smallest of fragments. So many of my constituents are devastated by the impact that these energy projects are having on nature, yet no one organisation has ever looked at the cumulative impact that these projects are having on nature within this 10-mile radius. But we can get this right. If we get this right, we can deliver on our climate ambitions, protect nature at the same time. But it will require greater leadership, greater oversight, greater scrutiny, and greater emphasis on making sure that we coordinate, plan and implement a clean, green energy revolution that is strategic and not just whack-a-mole. It must be rooted in knowing the land and knowing the geography, and not by the whims of the developer. Getting this right now, Sir John, means better protections for our natural environment, better safeguards for our local communities, and leaving a lasting legacy for the next generation.